Chairman Alexander, before I begin, I do want to say I'm pleased that we're having ongoing conversations about the concerns with the Department of Education, implementation of our education law, and I appreciate that and want to keep working with you on that. So Good. Thank you for that. Thank you to all of our witnesses for being here today. I look forward to your thoughts on what colleges and states and the federal government should be doing to lower the price of college for students nationwide. As we now wrap up the first round of hearings on reauthorizing the Higher Education Act, these conversations have made it very clear we have to address all of the challenges that students face, not just making college more affordable, but we also have to increase access to higher education for underrepresented students. We need to hold colleges accountable for student outcomes and success, and we need to make sure that every student is able to learn in a safe environment. Last week, the Democratic Caucus released a set of principles going into each of these priorities in depth. We believe a comprehensive reauthorization has to include meaningful reforms in all of those areas. It's the only way to truly help students overcome the many barriers in higher education. Now, I'm very pleased that we are finally discussing an issue that is hurting so many people across the country, and that is the continuous growth of college costs with no ends in sight. With few students able to afford college out of pocket, we now have almost $1.5 trillion in student debt. That is more than auto loans and credit card debt combined. Since 2007, 1 year before the last reauthorization of the Higher Education Act, student debt has tripled, and the number of students with debt has grown from 28 million to 44 million. Here's how fast our student debt problem is growing. Every second, student debt in this country grows by about $3,000. This is really taking a toll on our students. A new study suggests up to 40% of students may eventually default on their loans, and it's even worse for students of color. When we talk about affordability, we have to look beyond averages. That same study showed that African American students who graduate with a bachelor's degree are 5 times more likely to default on their loans than their white peers. There are many reasons why college has gotten so expensive, and I will get into those, but the results are the same. Many students are choosing to not even apply for college or are being forced to drop out before they can finish their degree. A shocking number of our students are going hungry or do not have a safe place to sleep at night. Student debt stops people from buying houses or starting families or opening their own businesses or continuing their education. And for some, the crushing burden of student debt never ends. The way we finance higher education by asking everyone to take on debt is sending a very clear message that college is for the wealthy, not the students who have the most to gain. We can and we must have worked to keep college within reach for all students. Now, I briefly want to touch on some of the reasons why college has gotten so expensive. First, colleges themselves aren't doing enough to consider the burden of debt students have to take out and the challenges that they'll face in landing a good-paying job. Secondly, states are investing less and less into higher education. And that's not only bad for our students, it's bad for our states who have to rely on higher education to fuel their workforce and their economies. And third, federal student aid doesn't go as far as it used to. Pell Grants allowed me and my siblings to go to college. But today's students will tell you Pell Grants are not nearly enough to cover the total price they have to pay. Since I graduated, tuition where I went to college has increased an astounding 338% when adjusted for inflation. Chairman Alexander, you and I agreed that the reauthorization of HEA needs to be student-focused. So with that in mind, I hope we can discuss college affordability at all stages of a student's education. Before students enroll, we need to make sure federal investments are going farther for students. And students need to be able to cover the full cost of college. That's food and housing and textbooks and childcare and transportation, not just tuition and fees. Once students are enrolled, we have to make sure the price of college does not increase unexpectedly during their education. And after students graduate, we must help the millions of student loan borrowers who are managing the burden of their debt. Borrowers should be able to refinance their student loans and have affordable monthly loan payments. And there should be a light at the end of the tunnel for borrowers, including loan forgiveness, a cap in the number of years students have to pay back their loans, and full relief for those who've been cheated by their colleges. Chairman Alexander, I look forward to working together on a comprehensive reauthorization that will address these and many other challenges. I'm sure there'll be a number of issues we don't agree on, but I believe there's one question that should guide our negotiations. It's not, are we easing regulations to colleges and student loan companies carte blanche? It is not, are we reducing the role of the federal government in education? The question we have to ask ourselves all the time is, will this reauthorization of the Higher Education Act leave students better off? I'm confident we can work together and negotiate in good faith and get to a yes answer on those. Thank you.